In politics, nothing happens by accident. If it happens, you can bet it was planned that way. This quote by Franklin D. Roosevelt is a good way to look at the decrepit relationship between President Donald Trump and Attorney General Jeff Sessions and the rifts occurring between them in Washington, D.C. I recently looked at an editorial from the New York Times concerning this issue, and I believe the editorial is very clear in making its main point, but there seems to be no true call to action as to what needs to be done about this rigorous situation unfolding in our nation's capital. It has been made very clear that President Donald Trump agrees with Attorney General Sessions on multiple fronts of national law. This includes but is not limited to how the United States governmental body functions on a regular basis. Trump has been reported by anonymous sources to have, quote, delegitimatized his own Justice Department by means of excessive force. Unfortunately, in this editorial, there is not much segue in any of its sections. Only the what portion of this issue is analyzed carefully. There must be an explanation in at least slight terms to this statement. That is the first major problem with this editorial, I feel. We need to be told the answers to these three important questions. First, how is it happening? Second, why is it happening? And third, what actions must be taken to correct the problem? Today, I will be critiquing the overall structure of this editorial as well as how it makes connections with what has been happening in recent months in Washington. I will also make sure I include the points not talked about enough, which I feel are critically important in this issue, in discussing this issue. I will additionally talk about why the main argument must be strengthened more and further clarified. Finally, I will emphasize what areas of the article I agree with while trying to strengthen the weaker points simultaneously. I first believe that this editorial is clear in making its general point to the reader, but it also appears very choppy in overall nature. I do feel that anyone who chooses to read this would easily pick up on this while looking through the editorial because it does not include very thorough, in my standards, detailed body paragraphs, nor does it go into detail about why the Trump and Sessions relationship is becoming increasingly tainted. Furthermore, the author could have used appropriate real-life examples as well as a more detailed argument. This means that he or she could have included more general information from other popular American news outlets such as NBC and Fox News. For instance, Jeff Sessions recently signed a petition relating to the dangerous activity that has been occurring in downtown Chicago, Illinois, involving police forces not having enough flexibility, at least in their terms, to act accordingly in occasionally life-threatening scenarios. This has been called a, quote, dangerous consent decree, and Sessions has blamed an unprovoked crime spike in the Chicago metropolitan area as the reason for signing a petition directly opposing the document which promotes criticism of the demeanor of law enforcement officials who make mistakes on the job. This further proves the point that Sessions and Trump disagree with the manner laws enforced in the United States. Before any of this took place, we already knew, however, that the rule of law has become a significant issue in America. Another aspect of relative importance in this editorial that does not meet my standards is giving enough substantial evidence or examples for the actual instances where Trump critically and directly threatened Sessions based on rhetoric he said or an improper action he may have taken. This, according to me, would threaten the safety and security of tens of thousands to millions of American citizens. We need a lot of clarification, a lot more additional clarification on what specific encounters between the two brought us here to the ultimate climax. The editorial needs to be expanded at least slightly because it simply leaves the audience essentially hanging. A good example that could further demonstrate how President Trump's discontent for the rule of law is valid is the Washington Post article titled, "Let Us Now Praise Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III." It shows how Trump has attacked his attorney general in the past, even going once going as far as to call him, quote, Mr. Magoo, because Sessions abruptly freed himself from any ties related to the United States-Russia investigation involving Trump's election in 2016 without Trump's knowledge. It also discusses how Sessions has, quote, a quaint faith in the rule of law. When I read news articles, I prefer extreme attention to detail, and this editorial simply fails to satisfy that crucial requirement for me. Furthermore, the structure of the argument in the editorial fails to adequately provide details about the examples it did give to the readers. The editorial, in a simpler sense, gives validation but not enough clarification. It needs to appear more scholarly for it to be 100% effective in my own mind. I believe that the most important piece missing here is about the speculation of alleged connections now President Trump, made with a foreign entity to enable his election to President of the United States. In conclusion, this editorial would be a fantastic work if additional key facts and opinions from other sources were included. Of course, revisions are always a welcomed aspect of critical writing, and I again believe that the author did a terrific job with this, and the fact that he established a main point and developed a strong argument is commendable here. There is one good point elaborated on throughout the article, the fact that Trump and Sessions continue to disagree, and it will only get worse if the two cannot find compromise. I can assure you, however, that it is not just me who prefers concise detail to read within various news articles, but all editorials and articles alike have their own aspect that needs to be criticized. This editorial about the President and Attorney General is certainly no different.